Buy or sell. Kristen said don't say the word.
Yeah.
Now I want to say the word. It's like the dogs. They've got they have the.
You sound like one of those billionaire owners. You tell them they want to say
dogs,
you want to say it.
The dogs that they have, the security dogs, the bomb-sniffing dogs,
right,
that have this big sign that says "Do not pet." That may as well just say, please pet me. Because every time I see that, I want to go pet the dog. And the more it says, do not pet, the more I want to go pet the dog.
You're a child. You're a child.
I want to pet the dog.
Yes, of course you do.
That dog deserves love and companionship. All right, Jim Harbaugh looking for love and companionship in Minnesota. Didn't get it. I mean, it really was the scene from The Office, the episode where Michael Scott goes to interview for the job at corporate and assumes he's getting it to the point where he gives his old job to Dwight. He sells his condo at a loss on eBay. He thinks he's getting the job. He shows up and realizes he didn't get the job. That's what happened, I think, with Harbaugh. I think he thought he was going to Minnesota to get the job, and he didn't. He told the Detroit Free Press after he went back to Michigan, he's done. Yes, the Super Bowl is the ultimate prize in football, but winning a national championship at the college level, that'll have to do. Let's go do it. Let's go do it.
Yeah.
I'm done with the NFL. Are you buying or selling that he's done with the NFL?
Bull crap, bull crap, bull crap, bull crap. I mean, that is some bull crap if I ever heard it. I mean, he told you his dream is to win the ultimate prize. Absolutely not I'm selling that crap all down the river, all right? Yes, there's no way. Next year, if a team pursues him or shows interest, and it's set up to the way he looks at it, I think I can make it run in a Super Bowl in a few years, he's going to entertain that job. There's no way. I think he wants to be back in the NFL for all the reasons you've described. I think, one, he probably feels like he fits that environment more. Two, it's a lifelong dream. He became very close as a player and a coach, and it's eluded him.
And his brother has the Super Bowl ring
at his account, right?
I think he's probably chagrined by the fact that he put out the bat signal pretty clearly this year, and the only team that was even remotely close to biting was the Vikings.
Guy, yeah.
All those other openings, and nobody was interested in Jim Harbaugh. You may wonder whether when he takes stock, and he may think, well, screw them. Screw all of them.
Mike, when I started to hear, tangible evidence that the new GM wanted Harbaugh, that there was some real talk of that, I of course, talk and text with friends where I was kind of like, hey, I'm hearing that there's a real interest in Harbaugh. I can't tell you how many people, front office or coaches' responses were, I'm paraphrasing, but basically, like, why? Well, they really want him? He has so many horror stories about him. That's where. And he is a good football coach. I don't deny that.
What he did with the 49ers was amazing.
I know, he did a lot of good.
No off-season program, shows up early August, takes a 6-10 team to the brink of the Super Bowl. But for Kyle Williams and a couple of muff punts, they may have gone to the Super Bowl in his first year.
I know. I understand. He is a good coach, but there's other issues there too. And I could also sit here and legitimately argue too that, hey, that 49ers team before he got there, they underperformed. They were very talented,
just like the Vikings are.
Yeah, well, I mean
that's the thing.
I get you.
He shows up. Who's got it better than us, and attack the day with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind, and all that stuff he does. You burn bright and you burn hot for a couple of years, and you see what it becomes.
It's risky.
I thought, give it a try. You could do a lot worse, and in Minnesota they have done a lot worse.
I wish you would have had no access to Minnesota, and your favorite team's coach probably would have threatened to beat you up too, and it would have been awesome because then we both would have hated the Vikings.
Wait a minute, why would I have had no? Why?
You would have said something at some point. You would have wrote an article about why did Jim Harbaugh go for it, and he'll be mean and a jerk, and then we're both going to have to hate him, and we'll both have to beat him up together.
10 years ago, we had him on the old PFT Live when it was digital only, running through the website, right after he got the 49ers job. And it was right after the conference championship games, and I was at the game in early '96 when he and the Colts almost beat the Steelers. I mean, Quentin Coriat had the game in his hands.
Yeah, right.
Dropped it.
Right.
And then Jim Harbaugh throws
the Hail Mary.
Right. And I can't.
It was like falling around the guy's lap.
And it was all couched as just like, do you still think about that or whatever? He gave me the answer, and he said, yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's just classic Jim Harbaugh.
Right.
He never lets anything go. Tell your dad I said hi.
Tell your dad I said hi.
And I hope he comes back to the NFL. I really think the NFL is more entertaining if he's part of it. I hope he comes back. I do. I said it.
Yeah.
I really was hoping that the Vikings would hire him. I thought it would have been fun. It may not have been productive, but it would have been fun. All right, buy or sell. Tom Brady will eventually buy an NFL team, and not Peyton Manning style where I own 5% or 2%. I'm talking about
majority
30% controlling owner.
Wow.
Him and Giselle putting all their cash together, because Giselle's probably got more than he does.
I would guess.
He's got all these other business interests. FrontOfficeSports.com had a thing on Sunday about all the different ways he's made money, and he's got like gross earnings between playing and just sponsorships of $450 million during his career. Now, obviously, that's all pre-tax.
Yeah,
but we've heard
machine
ridiculous
now.
Numbers of what Giselle has made.
Right.
And now he's got his clothing line. He's got TB12. He's got all these other things he's into.
Yeah.
Is it eventually enough? Do you believe, will he have the money to do it, and do you think he'll have the desire to be the oligarch? Not just the spokesman, not just the minority owner, but the guy in charge of the team.
I guess I don't know is how much money does Giselle have? I don't know. I know she was making greater sums of money than he was for a long period of time of their marriage. But man, I mean, so I was gonna say buy, but I didn't know you were gonna frame it in the way of like majority owner.
Yeah, I'm not talking about carving off a little piece from Robert Kraft and owning a piece of the Patriots. I'm talking about being the guy.
I guess I'm gonna sell from that standpoint. Wow. I am. I guess I don't disagree with you. I just don't know if I feel like it's gonna get to that extent. I could see him having a bigger piece of the pie than what we're talking about with Mr. Kraft, having more say in the fact of that, but not being the main guy. So I guess I'm selling from the way you put it up, but I do think that him being involved in some capacity, I would buy that. I'll say that.
My understanding of the rules as they currently are, you got to have 30% of the team. You got to be able to buy 30% of the team, and you got to have the assets, the resources to operate the team.
Right.
So if the Broncos go for $4 billion, whoever buys that team at a minimum has to have $1.2 billion liquid that they can put on the table to buy the team. Everything else over and above that, whether it's minority partners, whether it's debt or whatever, you can cobble it together, but you got to have 30% that you put on the table. That's $1.2 billion. I don't know that Brady has that now, and the problem is the value is going to keep going up and up.
Exactly.
And so what he's going to need is going to keep going up and up. But I don't put it past him, because I'll tell you what, nothing else he does is going to replace the dopamine rush that comes from winning on Sunday, and that kick in the ass that you get if you lose that causes you to refocus and redouble your efforts to win the next time. He's not going to find anything else that feels the same way, and if he can't do it as a player, do it as an owner.
I hear that. I do think that's real too. I get that. That's why I think Peyton Manning eventually is going to try to get involved in some way too. But to something you said too with Brady, he's got a point now to where he's such a star. He's global. He's really one of the first global full NFL players, and really whatever he touches is gold. He can. I would think he's gotten to the point where really it's a well-oiled machine. He can rake in as much money as he wants on a yearly basis, and maybe he can get his wealth to a point where he does what you're talking about.
He's not going away. He'll be around, and I think he's going to keep making more and more and more money, and everything he touches, like you said, is going to turn to gold, and he's eventually going to have enough of that gold. But will you pay attention, please?
Oh, hey, what are you talking
hobnob later. All right, buying or selling, Washington picked the right name with Commanders.
Well, yes, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to buy it. I mean, I don't know. What other great options were out there?
None.
Okay. So,
here's why.
There's a lot of Commanders in the Washington, D.C. area.
If you're Daniel Snyder, you get what you deserve.
Right.
Because you took the strident, defiant oligarch position.
Right.
All caps never am I changing the name of the team.
Yeah.
You never were able to properly plan a transition. You didn't have the lead time to come up with a name, get the federal trademarks. How many times have we heard over the last year and a half, there's issues with copyright, issue with trademark. You could do it more subtly, you could build it slowly, and then you can change the name on your own terms. When you get pushed into a corner suddenly during the nationwide racial reckoning that happened in the summer of 2020, the pressure he got from sponsors to get rid of that racial slur, dictionary-defined, offensive term, and he couldn't do it on his own terms. It put him in a position where Commanders ended up being the winner. And, they did a poor job of pre-positioning it. I know we're going to have Ron Rivera this week, and we're going to have to say, oh, hey, great name. But it's like, when you have 8 options, I said this before, when you have 8 options, nobody's ever going to get behind one of them.
Yeah.
And so the people who are like the other 7, when you find out it's Commanders, are going to be like, I was fine with Washington football team. I thought that was charming.
Didn't bother me either.
It was great. I thought the uniforms looked great.
Right.
So, I don't know. Maybe we'll get used to Commanders.
again, in my heart of hearts, listen, there's the first thing. I'm glad they're staying with the same color combinations. That, to me, is really what speaks of that football team. I don't have an issue with Commanders. It ties into their area of where they are in the country. They're close to the Naval Academy, of course, not far from the Capitol and all the things in our country that are very important. We've had some pretty good commanders come through that area, and General Washington and everybody else. I don't know. I can get behind it.
I know.
I wish we could have had, honestly, in my heart of hearts, I wish they could have found a positive phrase for the Native Americans.
I don't think they want it.
They don't even want it? No?
They want it.
No? Okay. All right. So I can get behind Commanders.
Here's one thing I am doing. And let me just talk about this for a minute or two. We haven't talked about it yet this show, and we don't have a spot for it. But, as I write about the various things that are happening with the investigation of the Washington Commanders that is being initiated by and pursued by Congress, and there were a lot of developments last week. All the stories are at PFT. I am going to refer to them as the Commanders. They don't get the benefit of the doubt that they don't get to sanitize their brand. They are the Washington Commanders.
It's a new team here.
No, it's the same team, same management, same team. So this is now an investigation into the Washington Commanders and their toxic workplace for years. And Chris, let me just touch on this briefly. One thing we learned on Friday, and I was disappointed that the statement that was released by the committee that's investigating the Washington Commanders didn't really hammer this point home. One thing we learned on Friday is that this investigation that was conducted, supposedly independent investigation led by Beth Wilkinson, was not about getting to the truth, was not about protecting the individuals who had been wronged, was not about having any type of transparency like we saw with Deflategate and Bountygate and Bullygate. It was about having a lawyer determine how deep the rabbit hole went and plugging it with cement and positioning the league and the team to defend against lawsuits. And one thing I'm trying to find out, when they approach these employees to cooperate, did they say to them, hey, we want you to assist us with this effort to eradicate bullying and sexual harassment and make things better and hold people accountable? Or did they say, we're really worried we're going to get sued. We'd like you to tell us your story so we can defend against these lawsuits, maybe even your lawsuit. Will you tell us what you know so we can properly defend against the liability that's coming? Because that's really what it was. And that, to me, of all the messed up stuff that I've seen over the last 20 years that the NFL has been part of, that's as messed up as anything I've seen. The fact that they sold it as an independent investigation when it was actually a precursor to defending themselves against whatever lawsuits they may take. That's shameful.
It is shameful. You've hinted at it. We've talked about this a little bit in the fact that, we never really thought it was an independent investigation. And I think, you alluded to it a few times that just we feel that maybe the NFL, when this investigation got going, went, oh no, there's a lot of stuff here that could really screw us over. And like you said, we got to do something and put some cement over it or whatever. You sound like you're Jimmy Hoff over there. Burying Jimmy Hoff.
No.
But
no. Yes.
I
don't want to end up like Jimmy Hoff.
I hope not.
So I better quit talking about it. I'm just kidding. And I'm not going to quit talking about it. So whatever the consequences are. But look, they only have full transparency when it fits their agenda. They wanted to bury the Patriots, full transparency on Deflategate. They wanted to bury the Saints, full transparency on Bountygate. This is one where they're the ones who be getting buried, so the evidence gets buried. And now we know why. And that's the other thing that really is shocking to me. The commissioner has used the victims of sexual harassment who wanted anonymity as human shields to defend against this idea as to why we're not producing the information. They're not producing the information because they were never going to produce the information. It was never going to be publicly available. It was always about CYA and protecting against lawsuits.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.